It is 7:01, so I'm going to call this meeting to order. Just to let everybody know that we are being recorded, and so our meeting will appear on YouTube and the local station. So, Morgan, do you want to introduce our guest?
We have a guest, Alex Bedard, Jr. at Quabbin Regional High School, and he is here observing and asking questions as part of a PEA requirement for school.
Cool. I'm sorry, I missed your first name.
Alex.
Alex.
Well,
Welcome.
Welcome. Yeah. Do we want to go around and introduce ourselves to Alex, and then maybe just give you a little bit of an overview of about what the library trustees do before we start?
Yeah.
Would that be okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So my name is Connie Strittmatter. I'm currently the chair of the library trustees. So we'll do introductions, then we can talk about them.
I'm Morgan Brinker. I'm a trustee.
I am Patricia Lowe, and I am the storytime lead at the library.
Chris Barbera, Library Director.
Tom Robinson, trustee.
Lucinda Oates, trustee.
Krista Gogan, Trustee.
So I guess just to give you a little bit of context about the library trustees, we are a little bit different from other committees for the town in that we are independent of like the town administrator. So most of the committees in the town, they kind of work under the town administrator, and we are kind of tangentially related to it. So we work closely with the town, but like Chris reports to us as opposed to the town administrator. So we're a little bit more independent in what we do. So we're kind of responsible for providing guidance to Chris on the management of the library and kind of maintaining the library building. So does anyone else want to add anything else about the role of us as trustees?
Can you vote? Some of us are up for election this year. Yeah, this might help you. There's our names and
Thank you, Tom. That was really helpful.
One thing that's interesting and challenging about the trustees is it's not just, I like the library, I want to help out. We have to make, as you'll hear, we have to make decisions about, financial things and trying to actually maintain the building, which is challenging for a lot of us. So we don't run the library. Chris runs the library, but we have to help with all the, financial and planning. We're running a survey. Actually, that's something that is good to bring up. We're running a community survey, so we're trying to get people to fill out the survey and give us feedback on what the library, what they want to see the library do.
So that's part of our strategic plan. So.
and if I could ask, did I hear it correctly that this is part of your community service thing?
So at my school we have to do a PEA. It's a political engagement activity. So for my question, I chose. Let me read it. So I did it on like banning books and censorship of books in schools and just in general. If I found my question, I would read it out word from word. To what extent does the censorship of books in schools deny us the right to freedom of speech? And I've done a couple of engagements already to help back up my reasoning behind on how it can hurt it rather than help people's full education and understanding on it. And that's why I'm here tonight, and I have a couple of questions regarding books on, for example, like if they should be censored, how it can dampen people's like intellectual insight, and also the how maybe spreading awareness about books and the inside of books could help persuade like parents and stuff to allow children and students to accept the information and learn it better.
Excellent questions.
Those are great questions.
One thing we forgot to mention is that we work on policies related to the library. We work with the director, but one of the policies that we were working on recently was about, how does the library decide what books to purchase, and a process for people to be able to, express their opinion about a book in the library, whether it should be there or not. So I guess that's how we deal with that situation.
Yeah.
Chris, do you want to comment about at all? I don't want to put you on the spot.
Well, I think it's an awesome question.
Yeah.
I think that what you're investigating is marvelous. As a librarian, I believe that knowledge is power, and I believe that I'm not a big fan of censorship, so book banning is not one of my favorite things. However, as Krista mentioned, we do have a collection development policy, and we also have a form for people who are concerned about a particular book based in a particular area in the library as to whether or not they think we should have it. And we will investigate that because, if they have a valid concern, we'll certainly want to look into it. And then we make our determination based on what their complaint is, what the book is about, and whether or not it should be removed or not. To this date, I have not had anyone take advantage of that application for complaining about a book. So it's I haven't had it yet, so I don't know how I'm going to address it. But if the person who makes the complaint doesn't like my decision, then they can come to the library trustees. I forward the form on to them, and then they get to make a determination, and their decision is final. So if they think that they concur with my opinion, if my opinion is no, the book should stay where it is, then the book stays where it is. If they think that, Chris, I think you might have overreached yourself on that one, then I say, okay, I will let them know, But there is a formula to do this. So I don't know if that answers any of your questions, but
So, when I did the online panel thing, there was a lot of librarians from around the country, and I forgot exactly what state, but it was on the East Coast, and this librarian, I don't think she had the full power, in deciding it, but there was a certain book that was kept on the shelves, and people weren't really happy about it, and thought it was their decision directly, and she got a lot of hate and stuff, and especially it was a smaller town, and she ended up a lot of people didn't like her, so she couldn't really show her face.
wow.
Yeah.
I've never come up across that. I hope that I can hold my head up high if that does occur. But I've never been tested like that, so my initial knee-jerk reaction is I'll hold my head up. I know what I think is important about the library, and I think that having full access for information for people to make their own decisions. Now, having said that, I also, when I use the collection development to determine my books, I pick books that appeal to everybody. Not that the books appeal to everybody, but if you come in and you're a fan of Rand Paul, who is a congressman, if I recall, he has a book. We have it. If you are a fan of Tucker Carlson, we have it. If you are a fan of Rachel Maddow, we have it. So I try to run the gamut from liberal to progressive to conservative, from if you're looking to clean up, you can find Maria Conde, but you can also find, I can't think of a person off the top of my head, the way of cleaning, the Swedish death cleaning book.
I didn't know what you were talking about.
So there's a whole bunch of different ways,
It's
That's a
that
good
people
book.
can clean their house. There are different ways people can approach politics. There are different ways people can approach culture and cooking. I have a whole variety of different cookbooks. So if you're looking to learn how to cook Thai food, I got it. If you're looking to, I don't think I have Jewish food. I have Muslim food. I've got ramen. I got a whole book on ramen. So I mean, there's a whole variety, and that's really what my job is to make sure that there is something for everyone at the library.
And additionally, if we don't have it, our library staff, supported by the trustees, are willing to support patrons in acquiring the materials that they request.
Yep.
And also, it helps us develop our collections further with feedback from patrons. Other policies, as we go through and we're actively reviewing our policies, is library use. So the ability for young patrons to have their own library cards, but we have put language in there, and we support families' decisions and or guardians to support the decisions of youth checking out materials, and we really rely on that family nuclear choice of materials, and let them know that ultimately it comes down to their family nuclear choice.
And I guess I would say to that point, I think we're very fortunate to live in a community and a state that gives libraries and library directors the ability to purchase the books that they think best meet the needs of their communities and to offer a wide diversity of it. But I think what we're also seeing throughout the country is we are seeing states that are trying to pass laws that are restricting librarians and libraries' abilities to put certain books on the shelves. So we're not seeing it in Massachusetts, but we're seeing it in some communities in Massachusetts, not broadly, but there are state laws that are trying to be enacted that's trying to limit what can be placed on shelves. So in some ways it is a little bit of a concerning time right now about people being able to get information that they want and be able to have a diverse viewpoint of materials available in the library.
And then access for students. I know Boston Library, as well as state libraries in New York City, are expanding access, so you don't have to be like a Boston resident. You could be a resident and a student within Massachusetts. You might be able to
Actually,
clarify
the
this.
Boston Public Library is considered the state library.
Okay.
So anyone who is a state resident can get a Boston Public Library card. You can get a physical card, or you can get an e-card, or you can have both. But I personally have a Boston Public Library e-card, which gives me access to their entire electronic collection. So you, as a state resident, would also be able to access the Boston Public Library and their electronic collection or their physical collection. But for that, you probably, we can get you that. We can get you their stuff. So
I have a question. How will we interact with you? After tonight, will we ever see you again? Or will you be here repeatedly?
I mean, it just really depends, because I also work, and sometimes I work Thursdays, sometimes I don't. So on any open Thursday, I mean,
When's your assignment due to speak?
it is due, well, this part of it is due, it's due next Friday, this part, but this is my final engagement, and then the entire thing is due in April.
Because we only meet once a month.
Yeah.
I'd be anxious to read your finished product
Yeah.
in April.
Well, it's going to be done middle of April, so probably
Well,
May.
whenever you're done.
when you're done,
Don't hand it in early.
If you would send us a copy, we would love to have it.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
And I'm gonna give you a website that I don't know if you've been to yet or not. It's the American Library Association.
Yeah, I've been there.
Okay, so you have all of the banned books and why things were banned. You can look that up on
I've
the
looked
list.
at some of it.
Okay,
Yeah.
never mind.
One thing, if you're, like, school libraries are kind of different than public libraries. So I'm not sure, like, you want to maybe make that distinction, because in the school library, it's part of the school, so it's a little more self-contained. The only patrons are, students at that school. Whereas at the, at a public library, we have things for, they call it cradle to grave, the whole range. And so sometimes that causes issues because people of different ages want different things. And, we have a separate room, but, people can go around. And so anyway, it's a little bit different. And that's why we have the, this process for, reviewing issues, like if somebody decide or thinks that something shouldn't be in the library. But like with the school, they complain to the school board or whatever. It's just kind of a different sort of thing. So I don't know if that's relevant for your research. You mentioned the school versus this being a public library. Well, not this. We're not in the library right now.
Well, I feel like just taking away books in general can be harmful. So I feel like in either setting, it's really impactful. So for this, I don't think it would really matter. But if I was researching maybe countrywide or worldwide, I feel like it would be better to look more at public libraries and all that.
Just a comment on this phrase, freedom of speech. I hope you look into it a little bit. It's more or less a misunderstanding. We don't have freedom of speech. What the First Amendment says, First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution says, is the federal government will make no law that denies me speech, that suppresses my speech. But it doesn't guarantee me free speech. I can't stand up in a theater and yell fire when there's no fire. So look into the Constitution and where this comes from and how people use it and abuse it. It's very interesting. Hope you do.
So can I just ask maybe 3 questions?
You can ask anything you want.
Okay. I have 3 or 4 I just want to ask. I have 2 or 3 against banning books, and then I have 1 or 2 that are kind of not for the other side, but kind of considering the other viewpoint. Do you think that banning books or censoring books in general can only be beneficial for a community, or do you think it can also hurt it?
Thanks. Everybody's looking at me.
Well, I think we've kind of already answered that.
No, I don't think we have.
Oh, all right.
So, can banning books be beneficial for a society? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Society.
Community?
A community, I'm sorry.
Yeah, or can it only be hurtful?
The way you word it makes it a little ambiguous, because a society or a community like Russia, yes, it is beneficial for the powers that are in charge to be able to ban books, restrict access to information for their constituency because they believe they know best. In the United States, I believe it is harmful, because we are striving to be a free society. And in order to be that, I believe that it is necessary to have access to whatever information is out there. Preferably that it's accurate. As we know, the internet is not always accurate. So you also have to learn how to see information as whether or not it's truthful or not. I don't think I worded that quite well.
Discern.
Yes. There's the fake news, there's misinformation, alternate facts. Those are things that can convince people that some things are incorrect. They'll believe in something that may be incorrect. So to have a society or a community where it is not beneficial to ban books, you also have to instruct that society how to identify what is truthful and what is not.
There's another kind of impact on books building off this idea of not really banning them, but putting a book out there that's shaped in a way that's, people might call it propaganda, or they might call it untruth, or some might believe that it is true. But if you go to some foreign countries, you'll read their history and you'll read what happens, and it's very different than what we think of it as reality. Whole cultures are not even mentioned. Whole conflicts are not even mentioned. And so it's not just a strict ban, but it's a shaping of the book into what I am trying to imply is a distortion. Call it an untruth, call it what you will, but the book isn't banned. You can buy it, you can read it, but it's a little off the accepted understanding of what the historical event was or what the culture was. I recently read in the United States where the concept of slavery was really like a job training program, and that wasn't reality. I can bring in pictures of people with lashed backs, up and down their backs, scars across them. That wasn't job training.
So, yeah, that helped a lot. So you talked about how basically like different like countries and cultures in general will oftentimes only really put in like the information that they believe to be the most beneficial towards their country rather than the full truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that happens a lot in the US, and like, for example, you go into other countries, wars are named different, which naturally will bring in more of their side. And when you compare them side to side, it helps you learn the full truth of what actually happened and kind of like judge like what might be towards one side because of the what's the word? Like
Bias?
Bias towards one country because they kind of want to bring up their reputation and seem more like the hero towards their people and who will be reading it.
Exactly. Very good.
So my next question is, do you think, well, this one was kind of answered a little bit, but do you think people could start pushing for like banning or censorship of books due to religious reasons? And do you think people will kind of run with it and try to have it go, although it would violate the First Amendment?
I see it a lot in the children's room, or hearing it from other story time or children's librarians, that certain groups are going into the children's room and trying to remove certain books that don't align with certain religious values. And it's kind of, there's a degree of separation of church and state, and I think that when you go into a public library that receives state funds, that separation of church and state still needs to be happening. That just because you're of a certain religion doesn't mean that you have the right to go into any library in any section of the library, whether it be the children's room, the adult room, or whatever, and remove books that you feel don't align with your religious values. And I know a lot of librarians are like, well, the books are here. It is up to you of whether you check them out or you allow your children to read them. That is your right as a parent, but that doesn't give you the right to take away the rights of other parents who would like to come in and check out books that may show different types of families or different types of kids that, you know, their child might identify with more, or a family that their child might identify with more. It doesn't make sense that, yes, they should be in the library, but that doesn't mean that they physically have to check. No one is forcing them to check them out and make their child read them, but they do deserve their place on the shelf.
That's a main thing. Like, just because the book is in the library doesn't mean you have to read it. So,
Right.
whether deciding something has to be removed because you don't want to read it is really counter to what the libraries stand for. You might have encountered the Freedom to Read statement on the American Library Association website, the Freedom to Read statement. It kind of goes through that, basically what you just said, that, we want to have things there that people want to read, and just because you don't want to read it doesn't mean it shouldn't be there for someone else to read. And parents are responsible for what they want their children to read, not what they want other people's children to read.
Right. Like they're banning Captain Underpants, and my boys saw that on the news, and they got all riled up that they're banning Captain Underpants in some other states because that is one of their favorite book series. That's also an author that my eldest identifies with because Mark Spivey is very out on, he has ADHD, he had a hard time in school, and now he's a famous author. So it's not only just the books themselves, but the authors who are writing them that kids can align themselves with as well.
If you notice, Superman, who's quite a well-accepted hero, he wore his underwear on the outside of his tights.
Yes, he did. But he was an alien. He didn't know any better.
I never thought of that. Now it's like...
Yeah, now you can't unsee it.
All right, so one of the things that has been mentioned is that depending on the part of the country that you're in, you could have a more stringent response that is based in the religion of the area. It's not an anecdote. Someone I know grew up in a place where Reading Rainbow was read by a white person, not by LeVar Burton. And when he went into the library, every bookshelf was covered with sheets except for the books that the parents, who were the elders in the church, wanted the kids to read. The kids couldn't even see the other books. And that's the way that they handled that. He now lives in New York City, so he doesn't have that issue, and he's a voracious reader. But the one thing I do want to mention is that it seems like there are more unaffiliated people who consider themselves to be spiritual or believe in God than there are people who belong to established religions in the United States. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next few years and how that will play out. So that's my 2 cents.
And I'm going to go back to the First Amendment. The expression of the freedom of religion really isn't there. The First Amendment says the federal government cannot pass a law to impose any restrictions on religion, any religion. So it's not a positive right, it's a deterrence to the government.
So I just have one more question I'd like to ask tonight. I already mentioned it a little bit earlier, but do you think that having maybe giving more awareness to parents about books and how they help further people's education and their overall understanding of the world would lead to people, or to parents or people in general, to want to keep more books on shelves and bring in a more diverse collection rather than trying to oppose it.
I feel like it could help, but to be quite honest, I give more hope in younger generations than I do in parents or anybody over the age of...
Old people?
Yeah. I feel like, unfortunately, you sometimes start getting set into your own biases without necessarily even being aware of it, where when you're younger and your mind is more perhaps plastic and being able to be open to things.
Oh yeah, for
Um,
sure. My kids are like rubber bands.
Yeah. And not to say that it will change who they are as an individual, but they would be open to even exposing themselves to materials, whereas sometimes you're like, you know what, I tried science fiction once, I'm not going to go back and read it at all. I just think that some people get set in their ways.
I also think on many occasions I've seen people interviewed who are interested in banning books and they haven't read them.
Yeah.
It's really unfortunate because I think, as was said earlier, the knowledge is the power. And you don't get power unless you also have an understanding. You can't wield power without an understanding.
There was a really great interview with, oh God, I forgot who did it, but it was with two of the women from Moms of Liberty. And he literally asked all of the hard questions about why are you with banning books. And they couldn't give a lot of really great logical answers. So that would be a really good interview to look at, of where their position is coming from on banning books, because they are the spearheaders for banning books or censoring books or getting rid of certain books out of just every library across the country, not just ones in certain areas, and listening to their answers or their non-answers. But I have had a couple instances in the library where we put up a display. Thank you. Display, and a older patron went in and she flipped down all the books, and I went up right behind her and flipped them all right back up because she wasn't too keen on that particular month's display. And it just, it's disheartening to see, but knowing that one of those books that she had flipped down, her grandson loves to read, so it's just, it is what it is. But we've got some really great people here, not only in just our community, but across the state, that are huge supporters of making sure that even if there are that negativity, we don't let it spread, kind of thing.
I'd like to say that it's not just old people.
All right, I have another story. So I had a mom come in with her teenage son. She says he has to read something. I said, okay. And I started asking him questions. Do you like sports? Eh. Do you like dogs? Eh. Do you like zombies? Eh. I'm like, great, I got some zombie books that you're just gonna love. Behind him, his mother has this look of abject horror on her face because she was thinking, I want him to read Robinson Crusoe or Moby Dick or, the classics. And it's like, no, this is what he wants. If you want him to read, you get him books that he is interested in. Don't give him The Last of the Mohicans. He's going to read it and be like, I'm not even going to finish that because the voice is old. I'm not enjoying it. You're not going to enjoy it until you're older and you can appreciate the story. Whereas when you're younger, Captain Underpants, yes. Bad guys, yes. Dogman, Cat Kid, yes. Absolutely.
Especially with struggling readers.
Especially with struggling readers, especially kids who find it challenging to read, need something that they're going to enjoy. And if they can't enjoy it, then they're not going to read it, and they're just going to have an abject hatred of reading and will never find the universes that are out there that they can enjoy and explore.
And again, with the power of books, of finding yourself in characters or finding yourself in authors, and repeated those with dyslexia and being able to see themselves in Rick Riordan,
Yeah.
his books,
Percy Jackson. Yeah.
Percy Jackson and things like that, of being able to see themselves in that.
Yep.
Yeah, I personally really like reading like fantasy and all that. So I've read a ton of Rick Riordan books and all that type of stuff. I also really like Greek and Roman mythology. And
That was my gateway, and that's why I have a minor in classics. When I went to college, I was like, well, I know I can't actually go to Pompeii one day, but I learned everything there was to know about it,
Mhm.
and then I got there. So that's the thing, is we need to make sure that those Greek gods and goddesses, they get to stay on our shelves, like Rick and many others.
And then the power of cultural shift in views even. I remember having a great conversation with an uncle who's big on literature, etc., and being really upset that I was letting my kids read graphic novels and saying, "What are you doing? That's not reading." But it is reading.
Yes.
And there's great things translated into graphic novels that sometimes words can't even do. It's like the expressions, etc., that it just fills in. So, yeah.
I had a high school assignment. Actually, every summer you had to read 5 or 6 books. That went over real big. And I read Dickens. And I don't think I read 12 pages of David Copperfield. But what I completely missed was if you read it out loud, you'll end up speaking like someone from the West End of London. He was copying the dialect perfectly. I was reading it and saying, "This is a foreign language." So and now I really enjoy books that have conversation in them that capture the way the person speaks. It's very interesting.
So ultimately, yes, I think
Yes.
parents should be persuaded to let their children know that books are good, and that they can start a meaningful dialogue with their kids. When, for example, they find a book and they're like, "I get the dyslexia, and this is how I feel." And maybe their parents don't really get how they feel, but now that if they sit down and they read the book, they'll be like, "Oh, so I get that now," and that may change how they interact with the children or get them the help that they need to move on and create coping mechanisms or learning mechanisms on how to best help.
It's also just a great conversation starter with your kids, because watching your kids become animated about talking about their favorite character, their favorite book, or their favorite author is a great conversation starter just to have as a parent. You learn about what your kid is interested in at that moment, because Lord knows it changes every 2 weeks, and B, it keeps you and your child in open communication. That door is now open. You're taking interest in what they want. So it gives a little bit more insight to parents. And I told my parents, yeah, your kids are little right now. They're probably just picking the book because it's super colorful, or they like that it's a princess book or a dragon book or whatever. But it's creating memories, and it's also opening up that two-way communication. So, and now I'm starting to get my older littles who are really getting in there and getting there what they like, and horse girl coming in and clearing off an entire shelf because she has to take all the horse books. But keeping parents educated on the best way to do this, and that it's not necessarily, books are not a bad thing. Books are not weapons. They are more of a helpful guide to get you along the way.
I will definitely say I have surpassed that mark to where I used to be able to preview what my kids read, or I would read with them. I love The One and Only Ivan and Wild Robot, which is coming out into a movie, so yay! And being able to compare those books to novels, but I used to be able to kind of know what my kids were reading. I can't keep up with what they're reading. 3 kids, 1 parent can't do it. 3 kids read faster than me now, but I also get this great recommendation list of, "Mom, I read this, you should read this now." They bring me ideas that they've read from a book, and I have given up that one. I can't control what my kids have. That was never really the goal, but then they're getting exposed to different ideas. They're learning how-tos, they're learning all these, and this is part of life. That's the goal of life.
One more resource. There is a First Amendment Society of Massachusetts or New England or something, and they have an organization that promotes the First Amendment, and they have a lot of background information on it. That's the resource.
So kudos also, Alex has already reached out to a couple other libraries, has already attended library association meeting. He's done a lot of background research, so congratulations on picking a good topic.
Thank you.
Nice job.
It's a pleasure meeting you.
It's good meeting all of you.
You're
Possible
thoughtful.
career goal.
Good public engagement.
Yes.
Yep.
We didn't have that requirement in my high school. I feel like they should have.
Are you a senior?
I'm a junior.
Junior.
I don't think they had this when Charlie and Ray were. And that was just like 10 years ago, so.
Yeah, I think they started doing this like 3-4 years ago. It's relatively new, because they pretty much revamped their like most of their like history / like civics
Nice.
section in the high school.
Good.
So it's like all new stuff, and it's really cool information. And well, I'm in a class called Global Politics, and we're that's what I'm doing this for, and we're learning a lot about the world around us as well. Like every week, we kind of like we go out, we research, we choose a topic or either related to a central topic or whatever we want. It depends on the week, and we go out research one topic from around the world. And then we come together as a class and kind of discuss it.
Nice.
And like the general themes about it, how it relates. So we're doing a lot on human rights right now, and how it relates to human rights and stuff like that.
That's
Who's
awesome.
your instructor in that subject?
She's actually really new to Quabbin. I think this is her second year. Her name is Christine Carr.
CARR?
Yep.
That's awesome. I'm really glad that they're doing that. That's really cool.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me.
You're very welcome. It was a
Answering
pleasure
all my
meeting you.
questions.
You know, this, as you know, it's being recorded, so I, as a minute taker, I find it really helpful to watch the video, and you know, because it's hard to take notes fully. So if you, it'll be up. Usually, it's up like it'll be up tomorrow, probably.
Okay.
Yeah, it's WHPA, and
If you go to the Hubbardston Town website, on the left, there's all those little boxes. One of them
Yep.
is meeting videos, so that's
Okay.
usually how I
Just click
find it.
All right. Thank you.
you're very welcome.
Thank you.
Have a nice
Thank you.
night.
Good job.
too.
Good luck.
Wish you luck with that assignment.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Take care.
Thank you.
How refreshing. To
Great
see
young
s-
man.
Yeah, to see somebody not only involved but articulate about it
And polite.
and polite.
Really, really nice kid. What was his last name, Alex?
Bedard.
Bedard.
How do you spell that?
BEDARD.
Bedard. Is he Hubbardston?
Yes.
Oh, is he?
I gotta get that team program on.
All right, library director's report. You're up, Chris.
All right. Director's report for March 7th, 2024. We continue to have 0 curbside pickups. We had 303 patrons for the month of February. We had 7 classes with 12 visits with a total of 284 students from the school. For Storytime attendees, we had a total of 48 adults, 63 children, for a total amount of 111 attendees, and we had 8 events, in February. That's what I messed up. Those are all going to be the wrong day, I think. Nope. Awesome.
In February.
Yes. We had 1 volunteer with 1 visit and a total of 2.5 hours for the month. 1 event of Not Just Knitting with 2 attendees. We issued 8 new cards. For our
My husband was one of those new cards.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so.
That's exciting. Our Facebook, Instagram totals. Our page reach for Facebook was 1,825. Our total page likes was 864. Our total page followers for February was 971. Facebook page and profile visits for February was 457. Instagram page reach in February was 34. Our followers on Instagram is 150. Instagram profile visits, 3. Our most popular Facebook posts, first one is National Bring Your Child to Library Week, not we, 942. And the second one is the heads up about the school vacation week, and that was 940. Sorry. Wow, how did I do that? I did that horribly. I'm sorry. The second one was Will You Be Our Valentine at 940. That 942 in the middle of that sign shouldn't be there. I'll fix that before I send it to you, Krista.
Okay.
Wi-Fi connections for February was 62, and I have not received the February visits for our website. Piper Webbs hasn't come back to me
So
yet.
this is January.
So that's still January, so don't ignore that. I will get that updated properly. Our library numbers. Hubbardston items circulated regardless of location was 1,383. All items circulated at Hubbardston regardless of ownership was 1,446. We had 257 requested holds. Total number of patrons registered at Hubbardston is 1,540. Total number of items was 11,514. Our overdrive monthly checkouts was 6,596. Holds on overdrive, we had, and that's, you know what, that 696 is wrong, it's 596. That was definitely off. I
was going to
apologize.
say, wow.
I was like,
Yeah, I was like, that isn't right.
596.
February, nobody had anything to do.
Yeah.
I apologize. I
That's still
did
great.
Very poor coverage on
What's
this.
the number? 590?
596.
All right, get rid of the 6.
Yes. And holds on overdrive, we had 122 e-audio holds, 202 e-book holds for a total of 324. All right, the library was closed for President's Day on February 19th. The Senior Book Club met on February 28th, 2024 at 11 a.m. to discuss The Perfect Storm by Sebastian Younger. There were 7 in attendance. The next Senior Book Club will discuss This Tender Land by William Kent Kruger on March 27th, 2024 at the Senior Center in the Slade Building at 7 Main Street. The custodian, Jim, has placed mouse traps downstairs and has caught a few mice. He has also asked that we get a new vacuum cleaner for upstairs, as the one we have doesn't have a beater bar to really clean the carpets. I will be looking into a replacement. Miss Tricia offered a special Saturday story time on Saturday, February 24th. She will also be hosting a Storytime Spring Bunny fundraiser on Wednesday, March 20th, 2024 at 10 a.m. Parents can take pictures of their children with a bunny for a suggested donation of $15. This will help purchase materials for future Storytime crafts. The Citizens Academy has been and will be held in the Children's Reading Room on Mondays from 6 to 7 p.m. 22 people have signed up for the Academy, and it will continue through mid-April. This town program is the brainchild of Town Administrator Nate Boudreau and has been organized and run by Tricia Lowe. Tricia is also spearheading a tween young adult program for role-playing games. Since this is a pilot program, I can use state accounts to fund her extra hours for this program for up to 2 years. Offering YA programs is a goal that I have missed achieving from the existing strategic plan, so Tricia's plan will fulfill that goal for the library. The display for the Adult and Children's Reading Room for February were Valentine's Day, Black History Month, and President's Day. Respectfully submitted by Christine Barbera. And the numbers on the last page are as up to date as of 2/29.
So I think we decided I could just link to this. Is that right? Instead of
I think so.
Yeah.
putting it in the minutes?
Definitely.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Well, I will, like I said, I'll email you the
thank
report,
you.
and then I'll update the Google Drive form that
Okay.
you have.
Thank you.
Any questions for Chris regarding the report?
Once
Thank you.
again, you and your team, good job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Not leaving Ann out.
Ann's doing a great job.
All right, meeting minutes. February 1st, 2024. Did everyone have a chance to review them?
I'll make a motion to approve the February minutes.
I'll second.
I'll second it.
Oh, Tom will second? Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go
Did I
for it.
step on someone's seconding?
You're fine. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? abstained, so it was going to be 4-0-1 because you weren't here, so you have to abstain.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I know I couldn't vote.
that's good. All right. We had to postpone the scholarship discussion last month just because our meeting was running long, so I want to make sure we talked about that today. So, Morgan, would you like to
Yes.
lead us in that discussion?
So, taking feedback of updating the rubric to be able to have, primarily the biggest changes were to allow applicants, and I changed the word from applicant to name, so it would just fit, and it's super tiny, but just trying to change the form slightly so that we'd be able to fit like up to 5 applicants on a page. There was a couple wording changes, but otherwise the rubric really is not changed from 2023. There was removal of submitted on time because we wouldn't be considering them if they were not submitted on time. So that was removed. And the score is the same. The only other discussion was, are we happy with the weighted score of 5, 3, and 0? That's what it has. That's what it was the last time, or do we want to change the weighted score?
I mean, I think it feels to me like 5, 3, and 0 works, but
And we could see how it goes
Spread.
again.
You deliberately want to spread,
Yeah,
1, 5, 10, 3.
exactly, so that it's not too
Yeah.
close. Yeah. So if you guys are happy with it the way it is, we could try it this year the way it is with literally the changes are removal of submitted on time and allowing for applicant names and for us to fit 5 applicants on one page.
Just one thing, in the form in the application, it says now that they have to submit their acceptance. I think that's a new thing. So I'm just
Nope,
wondering if that
that
needs to be
was-
on the rubric.
That was, with it being organization and of completeness, that was in the previous application, so that's
Okay.
not a change.
But we have
of the
never seen
application.
that before.
So, in the application, and I don't have a printout, I believe it actually states on it of, similar to request of reference, that the trustees may reach out, so you put in, like, where you're planning on going for
As an
education.
application.
I'm just wondering if we wanted to add it to the rubric, because it says they have to show proof of acceptance, and also that we might want to interview them. So I'm just wondering if that needs to be on the rubric if we're going to do those things, that's all.
I personally don't feel like it does.
Okay.
I feel
Wouldn't
like,
that be just part, I mean, just, if you don't mind, wouldn't that just be part of the whole application?
yeah.
I mean, if the application is incomplete because they didn't give it to you, then it's kind of a moot point, right?
Well, for the acceptance, maybe, but I guess we have, at least I haven't interviewed anybody, and if we are interviewing them, are we going to
I think-
score that?
I think it depends. So the use of that was in the instance that we had a really close, like, tiebreaker when we initially came up with the scholarship rubric and things like that. Things that we may want to do is to list. I don't remember in our history of receiving applications that we've ever actually reached out to any of the references either, but we've requested it. I don't really want to remove that though. So if we were in a position of receiving multiple scholarships to where it was a really hard year and they were very close, I feel as though we need to have some criteria in it, such as requesting completion or acceptance to continuing ed, a reference that we could go back to where if we get to the point where we really need to narrow the field, we should have those. But I feel as the rubric stands right now, that first one of organization and completeness of application qualifies, and that we don't need to have subcategories, because I likewise don't feel as though the trustees need to go to the steps of verifying or reaching out to references unless it gets to the step of we have 250 applicants and they're really phenomenal and we're having a hard choice.
That's the wording. It says proof of acceptance to a post-secondary education program must be provided before the award is finalized. So
Okay,
we
so
should
that's
change
not
that
part of
wording.
it was meant to be later in the process and a tiebreaker.
Yes.
But I feel like
I don't, that doesn't read that way to me.
It doesn't read that way.
I
Proof
just
of
read it.
acceptance
Okay.
to a
Black and
post-secondary
white.
must be
Be-
provided.
Before
Before the
finalization,
award will be finalized.
which is in August.
Okay.
before the so what's
The
the new
award.
wording?
The
Proof of
award.
acceptance
But we don't ask for proof of acceptance before re-award.
Right.
must
So
be-
just strike that from the application, or do
It
we
should
want
be
to
just be
proceed?
may be provided,
Maybe?
may be
Well,
requested.
I know we discussed an issue of sometimes we didn't know where they were going, like whether they were even going, to a college.
So, under education data,
Mhm.
it should be provided.
Right, and if it's not provided, then we don't consider it. Is that what you're saying? It's
That's
not
what I would
complete.
assume.
Okay, that's fine. But the interview.
That's where I would be looking for it.
Okay. But if we go to the trouble to interview somebody, I think it needs to be recorded on the rubric somehow, don't you?
Okay,
I mean,
I'm open to that.
I
I don't,
This is a scholarship for college, right?
college or trade school.
Okay, so they'd have to put down where they were going. I mean, it shouldn't-
So, under education, it does have post-secondary program of choice. So, question going back to is, do we want to add into the rubric
well, I'm just thinking if we were interviewing them to decide who to pick, it should show up somewhere, I think.
So I could see where you could add another column and just
Yeah.
saying option, like interview, optional, and then it may or may not be needed to be completed.
Okay.
Because
I mean, hopefully we don't have to do that, but if we do, I think it should be part of the.
And what we have now is says applicants may also be asked, so it's a may. But I do think we need to change the proof of acceptance to post-secondary educational program may be requested before the award is finalized. Because we've never asked them to actually submit their letter of acceptance in the past.
So changing the wording from must to may.
To may be requested instead of to must be
before
provided.
award.
Okay.
Because when is the application due? August, you said? Or is that when
The
it was
application is
awarded?
June, typically.
Typically.
We've been requesting the applications due by the end of June with the decision July, award in August.
With 3 awards? Is
2 at least.
2. Last year
So
was
we've been
3.
awarding 2.
No, 2 years ago it was 3. Last year was 2.
Okay.
So we have it awarded as doing 2.
So that's determined on the amount of money that you have? 2 or 3?
The amount of applicants.
Yeah.
In one
Okay.
case, anyway.
Okay.
So I believe actually
3.
there was a year to where we were struggling, and I think it was a COVID year of like we extended the deadline, and I think that's when we moved it to June, and it previously was May deadline, and we didn't have any applicants, and then finally we had 1, and then we had 2. I think that was the case. It was like one of those, what do we
Well, there was a
do?
year when we were generally thinking 2 to be awarded, and then we got only 3 applicants, and we said we're not going to slice one out of that. So
Yeah.
So typically it's 2, but we can make an exception
And then
if it's, like if there's 3 applicants and they were all qualified.
one thing that came up is, in the past, we've notified schools. There are no Hubbardson residents at Parker right now. There are no Hubbardson seniors at Sizer. I was notified.
Oh,
what's that one?
Sizer?
Sizer and
Sizer.
Parker
The
don't
charter
have
school.
anybody that would be
Parker's
Quali-
over at the fort,
Devon's.
but
practically, yeah.
where's the other one?
Fitchburg.
Fitchburg. Ready
But
Rotary.
Monty Tech and Quabbin would have, and then anybody we've had in the past showing of homeschool seniors. It is also open to, in the way we've had it in the past, and we may want to change wording, is my understanding of the scholarship has been it's first time post-secondary any education, college or trade school, but it doesn't necessarily need to be a graduating senior. So I have separated that, saying it does not need to be a graduating senior, but it's the first time they're applying for the grant, first time that they're going off. Versus Hubbardson Scholarship Committee, I believe, is open to if you're a returning sophomore, junior, senior wanting to reapply. And I don't know if we
or
want to
if you've
change
left
it.
and you're
Left
heading
and
back,
coming back.
you're going back to school after a number of years.
What do we do about someone who goes to Quabbin and lives in a town that isn't in the Quabbin district? They have elected to go to that school.
School choice person.
Yeah, school choice.
They have to be a resident of
So
Hubbardston.
we
Okay.
have them as Hubbardson residents.
Is this for only high school, or I have a mom that's going for her bachelor's?
So that's where it hasn't been just graduating seniors.
Okay.
So my understanding is, yeah, it's her first
Okay.
time. So it's just that, are we reopening it to, if you've applied in previous years, are you able to reapply? And I don't know, and I don't have a clarification on that.
Okay.
So please lock that door when you go out.
I will. Don't worry. I'll set the alarm.
So that's the other wording that we may want to consider, and I don't know where the trustees stand on that. Thoughts?
Can you phrase the question?
I would be looking to clarify who is open to the scholarship and who the scholarship is open to. Is it open to only first-time applicants? Meaning if somebody had applied in a previous year and or so for a bachelor's, it's not their first time going to college, but it's their first time applying. Do we want to be able to?
Well, you're not the first time applying. I think you're saying the first time. It could be the second time they applied. They never got any scholarship yet.
I'm asking for a statement basically of who is this scholarship for. We know it's for Hubbardston residents.
Right now, it reads being accepted into a post-secondary educational program, which suggests that repeat applicants would not be applicable. This is how it reads now.
Would it be open to somebody accepted into a master's or graduate program, but it's not their?
We don't.
Or somebody who's not a high school student, I think
Or someone
that's.
not, it's a,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think the focus is on high school students, but
I think that would be a majority, but it's not solely.
How would you reach these other people? Are they going to go to the website and say there's a scholarship and
I think it's kind of awareness. It has been questions that have come back to the library. So questions that I have received personally, and likewise in speaking, part of it came just this year of Quabbin is aware of our scholarship, Quabbin High School, but their timeline, so that we're aware, is they asked for information about our scholarship for March 1st. They have a published document and our scholarship is in it, but it's with very limited information versus other scholarships. And they asked for a statement of who is your scholarship for, and then they came back, can you redefine this? Can you kind of
I can see the
redefine
schools, the students in school understanding there to be a scholarship, but people further along in their education.
Chris
like
has it
their
at the
bachelor's.
library.
There are
Put on the
residents that
website.
have approached us as
Okay.
trustees and as libraries, more particularly it was a parent asking about their child is not entering college. They've already been in college, but they didn't apply before. Can they apply now?
Mm-hmm.
They're like third year, or they've applied before. Can they apply again? And I'm like, this is something that we should bring up.
The way this reads now, the answers would be no. It's the way it reads now. So the question is, do we want to change it?
Don't look at me.
Okay.
Well, we're not talking about increasing the number of scholarships. We're talking about how we solicit applicants.
It's like, yeah, it's increasing the applicant pool.
Yeah, the applicants are what we're after. And we've had a small number of applicants, which on the one hand makes it easy to award. On the other hand, you'd like to see some more interest. Does anybody know what kind of the number of applicants that the cash committee gets or the egg guy gets?
Not much.
Meaning,
So Hubbardson
we
Community
don't know
Theater
very much?
Scholarship and the Egg Scholarship and the Hubbardson Scholarship Fund have been very similar numbers to our own in past years of struggling we've had
Shucks.
anecdotal almost like competing with Hubbardson Community Theater and our own. I think the same year that last year, like 2, 3
mhm.
applicants. How many did you get? That was, yeah. Are people not going to college? That was the question. And then Hubbardson Scholarship Committee, I think last year likewise, were like, okay, we've extended the deadline again. So that was the other question of Quabbin asked when our deadline is, and they have an award night in May, but I was like, in the past we had it early and it was hard for us to get applicants.
Yeah.
And I think the end of the school year is very
We did that
tough
deliberately.
and busy for seniors, so we extended it to take some of that pressure off.
We could just say priority is given to graduating
Seniors.
seniors, but any Hubbardson resident could apply, I guess.
I think that would be a turnoff to anybody else that isn't a graduating senior.
But
If-
I thought that was the point of the scholarship. I mean, I'm not
Well-
opposed to opening it up, but I don't know.
I think I would view it as a very small but maybe important kick to make the move to get more education.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd reference, I'm not sure it's relevant, but I'm going to say that the state law just changed
Mhm.
to where if you've been out of school for a while and you go back to a community college, and I forget
Correct,
the
at
age,
25.
25,
Mhm.
26,
25, I thought.
I was at
So,
25,
yeah.
I was 26, but,
it's free.
Yeah.
yeah.
And even though it is free, when people go to school, they lose the opportunity to, for instance, work or lose hours of work. So I would even make it eligible for them.
Well, this isn't limiting the way it's written. Eligibility for this award includes being a resident and being accepted into a post-secondary education program.
I read being accepted meaning being accepted, like not returning or not continuing is how I would have read that.
But I mean, it doesn't
a
say anything
person
about
that-
high school.
Right,
Person
right, it
that's-
doesn't say anything about that,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
to me that would eliminate like second year,
Oh,
third
like
year.
they're applying for a scholarship because they need additional funds for the next qualifying years as a
Or if they're
sophomore, junior,
you're sophomore,
senior.
like as a sophomore.
Well, we could add
Right.
continuing, being accepted or continuing.
Can you inform me, the state law thing, is that a first time ever going to college? Or is that
I
a,
think they're targeting people who have some college and they want them to come back and complete.
yeah,
I think that's what that is.
oh,
It's for community college. Yeah.
I would be open to expanding the scholarship, quite honestly, to any Hubbardson resident seeking post-secondary education or trade skill learning. And I don't know that I need that qualification upon being accepted or their initial year. I think if anything, it may assist and be more beneficial for those that it might not be their initial year.
So we could just say being accepted or continuing in
How do the other
Post-secondary.
trustees feel?
post-secondary. I mean, if you want to open it up, that would be a way to do it.
I'd like to open it up. I'd be in favor of somehow making it more
Can you say
attractive
currently,
to more applicants.
or, yeah, I was gonna say currently attending, but you want, that we need to be planning or currently attending to. Yeah, so I guess what we're saying is it can be junior, senior, doesn't matter.
I'm saying it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What do you guys say? In favor of that?
So accepted or continuing, or I'm sorry.
does a
were you saying
junior do
something
with
else?
it?
I didn't have a full thought there, but yeah, I'm fine with that, so.
I think it would be very similar to any other year. One consideration of scholarships for
Junior in high school?
No.
oh, junior and college.
College.
I
Okay.
took it as college.
I'm sorry.
So one consideration with regards to sophomore, juniors, seniors, fifth year college students, etc., versus freshmen is that there are a lot of scholarships out there that are for that initial year
Yeah, that's a
that
good point.
others are not eligible for. So there is sometimes that influx of scholarship offset to where it makes it financially harder in future years to continue or maintain going. So I think our scholarships are generous, but I also don't think it's going to make or break whether or not they're continuing. And I don't feel as though I'm open to it being for any, but I also don't want to push any other trustees if they're not comfortable with that.
One more comment is, when you graduate trade, you take a course and work so many hours and become a journeyman. Then you work so many more hours and you take another course and you take another test and become a master. Or no, I'm sorry, master. So there's like a first year, second year in that situation as well. And we shouldn't limit it to just the journeyman test. We should also speak of the master test.
That raises a question, then does that include people going to graduate school, or is this for undergraduate? So you're saying, like, outside of trades, like if someone's going to get their master's degree at a university, are we opening it up to that? Because we have not in the past.
It's a little harder for me.
Well, we've had trouble getting applicants, so maybe,
Yeah.
not
Maybe
worrying about, some of, like, if somebody wants to apply.
But how do people go to graduate school? There's funding. Usually there's
Sometimes,
funding in the form of work study.
I've
And
never had any of my master's degrees funded. I've had to pay for them.
you went for too many.
So,
So change the
Okay.
instructions to they have to be Hubbardston resident who are accepted or continuing education in a post-secondary program.
post-secondary, or I guess, or a graduate program, if you guys want
I'm open to a graduate as well.
Graduate is post-secondary.
Yeah, I mean,
How about undergraduate and graduate program?
Thank
Just
you.
to
and the
specifically make
trade,
it
we have
clear.
to do the
Gotta get
trade.
that in there.
So,
Yeah.
Okay.
so maybe where we say, some places says trade. Here, you can say post-second, so you can say undergraduate, graduate.
Post-secondary, university, trade, or technical school.
Right, but maybe I would
Oh.
I would clarify
No,
that
graduate's a
post-secondary
master's,
means
right?
undergraduate and graduate. Because when I initially think post-secondary, I'm probably thinking
Yeah,
initially undergrad. So,
It says university. So you want to add graduate?
I think if you want to be explicit and you want graduate students to apply.
I don't think it benefits or it hurts to have it.
So where does it go?
They can get all of them.
Eligibility for being accepted into, at a,
Eligibility.
Post-secondary
to pay for
or
expenses
graduate?
while attending an undergraduate, graduate, trade, or technical school program.
To get rid of post-secondary.
Yeah. And I would say to pay for expenses while attending an undergraduate, graduate, trade, or technical school program. I think is that clear? Is that
Okay.
clear?
I'll go back and read. After 8, my brain is going to shut.
I know.
I'll read the minutes.
Well, we need to change it on the form.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Okay.
Once you have your
Yeah,
form
I'll do
all
'em in the
filled out,
next
let me
couple
know
days.
and we'll make copies.
Yes.
Okay.
Send them to me and we'll make copies for the library
And then
and the website.
speaking of form, so we've had in the past, and I'd like to continue with having access to the paper form, and we have on it a signature, etc. Do we want to go the route of having it available through like a Google form?
Yes.
I would be in favor of that. To where it's going to be verbatim. The difference with regards to scholarship application is at the bottom it has a certification of saying, and I should have printed it out, but it basically says, I certify
Yeah,
that everything in this is true to my understanding in place of a signature. And then it's received. And I thought that may encourage more
I
participation.
think that would encourage more participation, because I think filling out a paper form.
Typing it.
Typing and being clearly printed and things like that.
think reduces, I think that's a barrier to entry, so.
What's the barrier?
completing a paper form and submitting it. Because we're talking about a generation now that doesn't really fill out paper forms, you know.
I don't like paperwork.
Yeah.
If it's
And so I
online,
think they're looking to do things online.
So we'll take electronic signatures?
Yeah.
So it has a certification on
Yeah, I think that's good. It's linked here, so
it. Yeah.
you already set it up.
So if the trustees are comfortable, I will do my best. I will rewatch and work for the wording and
I can email
rework.
it to you. It just says the part about Hubbardston residents who are accepted or continuing their education in undergraduate, graduate, trade, or technical school program.
And then I will rework the rubrics and I will work to provide that to the trustees in advance of our next meeting, which would be for April, with the hopes that we can review it, approve it, publish it, send it out to the greater world. If everybody's still comfortable with the deadline being for June.
I think that works for me.
Are we comfortable with that still?
So you're sending it electronically? Is that what you're saying?
So it's already available in our agenda, the rubric, the form, and then the scholarship application being the Google form
Right.
option. And just changes will be needed to each of those. And then likewise, any other revisions for next month.
Do you want to send them out before April?
That's why I would like to try to have them sent so that we can do a similar, almost like the minutes. My hope is that we can kind of review them, be familiar with them, and if there's anything else.
I mean, I feel like we've had a pretty thorough discussion,
think
so
so.
I feel comfortable having you just make the changes and then distributing as we discussed.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, does everyone feel comfortable with that?
I mean, we're only like adding 2 words, basically.
And then
Are
you're
there
and then
any
you're
other
just adding-
considerations?
and you're adding the interview to
Yep.
the
Oh,
rubric as
adding the
a-
interview to the rubric and
So-
also the online form. I mean,
Making updates to the
Yeah.
online form.
Yeah.
Yes.
okay.
So, Tom, are you okay with that?
Yes.
And so schools have also been notified, and I will update them as well when it does go live. I told them that I would do that too.
Okay, great. Thanks for all your work on this.
Yeah.
Just the next agenda item. I think you probably saw the email that I sent to you all that Bob Kernan has resigned. So Candace received the official resignation on Monday, so it is now a vacant position. So, and you probably saw the election candidate slates come out yesterday. So there's 2 3-year positions, and then Bob is a 2-year. 2 3 years and 1 2-year.
It's only because people's terms ending in June. Okay.
So Tom and I are up at the end of the year.
I saw that, yeah.
So,
Are
It
you running
says
again?
2 3-year terms and 1 1-year term.
oh, is that 1 year? Okay,
Yeah,
my
you can
apologies.
only,
I thought it
you
was.
can only put a replacement in.
Okay.
Well, actually, we can get someone appointed between now and June. And then the person that gets elected in June serves for 1 full calendar year.
Are you both running again? Can we ask?
We just asked.
What are we supposed to do?
I don't know. No,
I'm just wondering if
no,
we were
no,
recruiting one
yeah.
person, or if you're running, then we don't need to recruit people for those other
Yeah.
positions. as
I
well.
will run for 1 more term. But I've said 1 more term, so.
Okay.
If Connie can do it, I'll do it. She puts all the work up.
So that's really 3 more years.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Assuming I make it to 80.
You'll make it. Tell him.
I make a joke. Life is like a big sporting event, and I'm in I'm in sudden death overtime.
No,
Now
that's
you're
awful.
gonna make me worry about you every time I see you walking.
Gotta laugh.
So yeah, so if we know of anybody who might be interested in filling Bob's term, send out feelers. So I don't know if it's worth trying to get somebody in to fill from April to June.
I think it would take us that long
I think it would take
to
us that
find
long to
us.
find somebody and then to have them approved.
Yes.
Well,
But we could solicit and they could maybe attend meetings as a
Yes.
guest to see if they.
it's worth it to them to kind of try it out.
Yeah. It's a really nice plug.
Do you
It's
want
a
me to
1
make a
year
flyer?
Sure.
I'll
Of
make a
being able to
flyer.
see whether
I
or not
enjoy
you
making
even like
flyers,
it. 1
you know
year.
this.
Yes.
I'll make a
That's
flyer.
cool. I was the 1 year.
You're not your 3 year.
I saw that.
You're a lifer.
I looked on there. I said, "Oh my!"
So you
you're
didn't know
gonna be
you were
close-
signing up for 3 years?
No, I thought it was one. I really did.
But now it's 2.
Well, no, I know now it's only 2, and I'm be right
Goes by
behind.
like that.
I know, and I'm on one of those. What was that? You said I'm on sudden death too, so I'm like,
We don't want to spread that too far,
No.
but I just said it on the TV, so.
I always say I'm in the last third of my life. I don't say sudden death.
All right. Well, okay. Moving on from that.
Oh, that went dark really quick.
Okay.
On to even brighter
Yeah, how about this boiler payment? What's going on with that invoice?
All right, well, we did get the boiler invoice, and I'll be paying that next week. And it came in at the quote of $23,770, which is what they had.
707?
$23,770.
Oh, 17.
And the warrant is next week, so I'll be paying that. I'm not sure what Kelly has to do to take the money out of the trust, but I'll put the account number in there for her.
Okay. So at our last meeting, we had talked about taking the money out of the Freetown Trust, which is at 26,000. So that would take that down to 3,000. I can't remember. Did we motion that or did we?
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
did.
we
Okay.
did.
So then you're good.
And
to
then
go.
So that balance, oh, it's
That
right on
balance
here.
will be 2,700-ish or so. And then did you say there was going to be another invoice coming from them for some supplemental work that they did?
Yes, yes. Phil from Royal Steam had to come in and tweak the system because we originally had a 3-inch pipe coming out of the original boiler. Now we have a 4-inch pipe coming out of the bigger, more efficient boiler. And I don't know if anybody's been in there while the heating system says, "Hey, how you doing? Here I am," which is very loud and very startling if you're not used to it. But it keeps the place warm, so I'm good with
I
it.
just
It's
usually
a
call
scary
people
closet.
back.
Very
Yep.
scary closet.
Yep.
Well, hopefully that boiler won't be
You call
being used
people
as
back.
much.
So it
Let's
goes.
get the
One
heat
of the
pumps in.
heat traps is right above my desk downstairs, and when it starts to go, if I'm on the phone, I'm like, you either need to call me back in 15 minutes, or I will call you back in 15 minutes because I won't be able to hear a single word you say. And one of the little boys asked me if there was a dragon living in the heating system because of all the clanking and all that stuff.
You can tell
So
him it's Paige's big brother.
it's yeah. There's Paige's big brother is the dragon, and he lives in the library, and he's just waking up for the
winter.
afternoon.
I see some felting.
Yeah,
in your future.
yeah. My friend's mom, who made Paige, she's making a nunsuch apple for us, and she's gotten me into it. And she's like, it's very soothing because you just keep stabbing something over and over again. And I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. So.
So the additional bill will be paid with the balance of the Freetown, from the Freetown account?
Depends what the
I guess it
balance
depends
is.
on what the balance is.
Right, well, I mean, we're gonna clear that account.
I think our
and
goal is
then
to clear that account, yes.
with any remaining from
Yes.
one of the other accounts, I
Yes.
forget which one.
Yeah, we might come out of state, perhaps, the rest of that.
Okay, thanks.
Great. Just in the interest of time, we're gonna start moving
Mhm.
through this stuff.
Is it possible that she could tell you about
Yep.
what she's doing?
Yes,
Oh
perfect.
God, what am I doing?
Oh, I thought you weren't coming for something specific.
Oh,
just-
I was coming about the fundraiser. I was coming at the fundraiser. I'm sorry I didn't run that by you guys before I just put it out there. It was an idea that came to me at 3 a.m. and then I told her, and then
I said, yeah, that's great.
yeah, that's great, and I pulled it together quite quickly. So what I did is I got a backdrop and a backdrop holder, and one of the moms who comes to story time is bringing two very friendly rabbits. I got to meet both of them. They live in a house with 5 kids and 2 dogs, so they are the most socialized rabbits I've ever met in my entire life. What will happen is the parents will come in, we'll have the rabbits crated. First and foremost, the rabbits will be crated. We will take them out after we read the story so that the kids can meet and greet with the bunnies, pet the bunnies. We will not do it on the carpet, I promise. And then we're going to bring, each family will go into the room because we're going to have the backdrop and everything set up in the adult room, kind of off to the side now that we don't have the TV box. And we'll do it. The parents are going to take their own photographs because I did play around with one of the moms, and one of the other moms is a photographer, but like she said, I'm a stranger to them. Most photographers don't get a very good reaction out of kids. They freeze up or they get upset or whatever. If it's mom or grandma or whoever brings them to story time behind the camera, the likelihood is they're going to get a better shot than a professional photographer. And there was going to be a headache of getting those photos that the photographer took to the parents and not having them in time for Easter or spring or whatever they want to use them for. So the parents are going to take their own picture. We're just providing the backdrop, the bunnies, and then the donation will go right back into the Storytime Fund. It'll pay for, depending on how much raised, it'll pay for either supplies or it'll pay for maybe getting someone to come bring Animal Adventures to come in and bring, pets that we don't normally see here in town, like skunks and lizards and snakes and
No snakes.
Chris really does not want snakes in her library.
Nope, that'll be a vacation day for me.
Yeah, so that'll be that. I did hear back from Wizards of the Coast. We have a war chest. That's what they call it. Called a war chest. It's coming.
You need to clarify what Wizard of the Chest.
Wizard of the Coast
I know
is
what
the
it is.
D&D proprietors. I guess they can call themselves now.
What's D&D?
Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons. I
You applied
contacted
for a grant for this or something.
So with Wizards of the Coast, you apply to have them basically send you a certain amount, a starter kit, and usually that's just the digital stuff. They felt with us being such a rural community, they're actually using my blurb for the application on their website. They felt that because we're such a rural community without a teen program already, so not only are they sending me all that digital content on top of a 5-year subscription to their D&D Beyond, which is a service that I can create characters, I can log the campaigns that are currently going on, any questions that I may have, I can ask an expert, that kind of thing. So that I'll have access to all of their digital library, as well as they're sending me character sheets, dice sets, books that we will log into the library catalog as well, so that even if it's not D&D night, someone can come in and borrow the book. That we have a photocopier. They can take photocopies of the one-off campaign. A one-off campaign is a campaign that only lasts for the night, and that's what I intend to do, is do just a campaign for the night. So they're sending all of this to us. I was hoping I'd have good news for you tonight and saying, hey, guess what? We got all the grants that I applied for, but I hit refresh every day, 5 times a day, and I still haven't heard from them quite yet. So hopefully I'll be coming to you in May and saying, hey, hi, how are you? Here's some checks, have them. So I think that's about it. And anything that you guys think would be great for the program, please let me know. I'm always open to new ideas. And yeah.
Just between us here, what's your target fundraise?
My target fundraise for the Library Bunny fundraiser?
Yes,
It's a couple $100. I don't know how many families we'll get. Because on some of the special story times, I've gotten 20 kids. I've gotten 16 kids. The snowplow story time, we had an overwhelming amount of kids. So I'm hoping, a couple of moms even told me, they're actually going to go pull their kids out of school for the hour of story time and then bring them back
Mm-hmm.
So I could have,
Boy, I'm gonna be in so much trouble.
A bunny picture? They're doing that for the bunny picture?
yep, for the bunny picture. They're pulling
I
the
would have
kids.
done it for story time. I honestly love story time with my kids, and I'm like, sometimes if they're staying in the classroom just watching a movie that day, I prefer pulling them out and doing activities.
Well,
Yeah.
we're on March 20th. It's getting closer to them getting out of school for Easter, and
They're getting out again? Weren't they just out February? They were just
Damn
off,
kids.
right?
They just had a snow day last week.
It wasn't a snow day. There was no power in Barry.
Okay.
Is that why there was no school?
Yes.
I was thinking. 'cause
Yes,
I
my
went
kids
by.
got to learn town municipality government right at the elbow, literally.
So
One
they're,
was
are
sitting
they
right next to me.
closed Easter week?
They're not closed Easter week. They're not even closed. They don't even have a half day on Good Friday here in Quabbin. But some of the moms expressed a lot of interest in going to pull the kids out for the story time to get their pictures with their younger siblings for the story time, just for the hour.
Well,
and
you're
then
just
they
trying
go
this
back.
out to see how
Yeah.
it goes.
Yeah, just trying it out, trying something new to see how it goes. And if it goes really, really well, I don't see why it's not something that we don't do again. Yeah, so it's just something different.
Live bunnies.
Live bunnies.
Thank you.
And what did you say about this?
Sounds like a great idea. Let's do it.
I do too. Sounds like a great idea. Let's do it.
One looks like a giant chocolate bunny, so he'll probably be my favorite.
Cadbury.
I should call my girlfriend. She's a big bunny fan.
All right, strategic planning. Sorry, I don't mean.
Go, 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 go.
Okay, so, community survey is out.
Mm-hmm.
We probably had about 60 responses so far
Wow.
Yay.
online.
Yeah.
I put 20 paper surveys out at election day, and 18 of them got picked up. I don't know if they got returned to the library or not.
We've gotten 3 paper copies
Okay.
back so far.
Okay.
You
So,
first.
go ahead.
No, you go. Tell me what you spread out so I can tell you what I did afterwards.
I didn't do anything else.
Okay. So I printed up the QR code flyer that's at the front of the that's on the counter. I printed up the bookmarks and I placed the bookmarks downstairs in the town offices, over here with the town the tax collector, and then over here at the senior center. I used the larger ones for the seniors, along with flyers in all of those offices. I also made extra copies, and Anne has volunteered to march herself down Main Street and just, go to every business and stick that in there.
Perfect.
But I'll need to know where she goes so that when we're all done with this, I can go back and take it back down again. So,
Good. I think the only other thing we need to do is then hit social media if we haven't done that already.
I haven't done what?
Social media?
That's right. I wasn't sure when you guys were doing this, and then I realized that you were doing this, and then I did the director's report today. So I should be doing something hopefully tomorrow.
Okay.
Make no promises. It might get pushed to Monday, but it will definitely be no later than Monday.
The town sent out a notice via email, I think,
Yeah.
Yes.
notice. I took that and shared that to Hubbardston people on Facebook, but that's just a start.
Great.
I'll be glad to put hard copies
Better
in
you
the pizza
than
place and
I think they're getting
Cake
sick of
place.
me.
Oh yeah. Do you have
I have 2 hard copies left. The only thing I'm going to say is when you print that out, it's a 17-page
Yeah.
survey.
I do
so
notice
it
that.
is
It's a little
like
overwhelming.
just because it's so the font
Oh.
and the layout, so it's a little daunting. But so I don't.
Can
put
you-
I can put an announcement about a take-home announcement and put the website on it and
Yep.
let them do it electronically.
Yes. Yeah. So I think that's what Christmas says. She's made
Yeah.
some signs. Yeah.
Yeah, the QR
So-
codes that
Yeah.
have the flyers, and I can
Yeah.
get those all to the businesses. I can even print up more bookmarks and put those at the businesses as well. That way they don't have to do it right there.
Yeah. Here's the 2 print ones that are left.
Okay.
Sorry, the one's a little crunchy.
No problem.
And it's open until,
Like March 31st.
okay, so maybe we can just ask them to send a reminder out.
Yeah, it was
Like
unfortunate because they
mid-month or
sent it out
something.
last night, and then this morning they sent out another survey for something else.
Really?
That was my fault. I sent Nate the flooding email that I
Oh,
get
yeah.
for
Oh,
DCR,
yeah, that's right.
and he
That's
didn't
all
even
right.
think about it. He's like, as soon as you sent it to me,
That's okay.
I sent it out, and I was like, you weren't supposed to do that, but that's okay, because I wanted the rainstorm
Yeah.
to kind of the next 2 couple rainstorms to pass before someone took the flooding survey.
That's
because,
important.
hi, your street is flooded.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think the month of March we'll just spend trying to collect survey data. I ran into Josephine
Page 2.
outside of the election office.
Mm-hmm.
We can come
Does
up
she
with
still on
something
board
for her.
with doing focus groups? So we are requesting, when people complete the survey, if they're interested in participating in a focus group, they can put down their name and phone number and email, and we can contact them. So I imagine focus groups will probably happen in April then. I think we had thought they would happen in March, but I think
Since you're
we're-
doing the surveys during March, it makes more sense to
and,
do
if we're,
it.
and that's how we're gathering focus groups.
Right.
Then it makes sense that it's probably gonna be April, so. We talked about marketing, community survey, encourage people to complete the survey.
Yep.
Anybody can see.
Could you tell me, what is it, 8.5 by 11?
What, the paper, the flyer? Yeah.
So I can stick some of
I
that.
told moms while they're sitting there at story time, like, hey, I know all of you have your phones out already,
Perfect.
so could you just
Yep.
do this for me? That'd be great, thank you.
Yep. Good, great.
I'll add it to my announcements, my obnoxious
Thank you.
announcements.
Green energy, I think this is brief. I know Chrissy reached out to the historical commission
Yes.
about what we needed to do.
Yes.
Did Nate circle back with you about completing the form? Last email I
Not
saw,
yet. He's
he
got a
was-
lot on his plate
Yep.
lately. Basically, the gentleman that I spoke to said that they prefer a low unit in the library proper, whereas wall units are okay in the basement. They're just trying to minimize the impact on the architecture of that. The other thing that they mentioned was one pipe just going in and out of the building. They don't want a whole bunch of pipes, again.
That's what we had discussed. What did they say inside though? They want low what?
In the library proper, they want it so they're like floor units as opposed to being up high on the wall.
Mini splits?
That doesn't make
No, they're not.
sense.
They're heat pumps. They're not mini
Yeah,
splits.
y-
They're both.
Yeah.
So it would be like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what he said is that there are more floor unit or units.
Baseboard?
Not quite baseboard, but I think they're kind of like that, but they're
But
designed
these have to
differently.
be up high.
Yeah.
There's a
That's
gravity drain issue of condensate.
well. I forwarded all this information to Nate. I don't know
Mhm.
if he has approached the company that's going to do this yet, but I hope he does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's something that we'll want to follow up because my understanding is basically it's going to be like these.
Right. The other thing that he mentioned, not quite part of the Green Community Grant, is that there is money available from the Massachusetts Preservation Commission for trying to do things that you need to do. You need a lot of information set up, so their cutoff date is the 15th of this month. So next year, you can start planning this if you'd like, and they accept CPA funds as matching grants.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry, I missed, I was trying to check. They have funding for, like, construction?
yeah,
Like
if you-
accessibility maybe? or-
No, not
Okay.
accessibility.
That would be
no.
the ADA grants.
They're more preservation, so like the windows, we could probably, get a grant to help us with the windows, maintaining the historical look of
Okay.
them. I'm not saying that that's the one that you should go with, but it's an avenue that you can explore.
Great.
Where could I read the vendor quote?
I can print it up for you, I think.
Is it on
Wait,
our,
this is the Green Community Grant quote.
well, what are we saying describes this equipment? Is it the supplier of that equipment providing a quotation? Or is it
I will have to
some
check
kind
with Nate on that. I'm not sure I've actually seen a quote.
I haven't seen the,
I haven't seen a quote from the company. They did the walk around. Nate may have that. I'll check with him.
I don't think we want to do this by remote control.
Right.
yeah, I'll have to look through my email and see if I have the quote. I don't know that I do, but we'll look into it and we'll get that figured out. All right.
Wait, I'm sorry, this is about the placement of the heat pumps, is that what you're asking about, Tom?
Well, what are they? How many are they? Where
Okay.
are they?
Okay. Thanks.
Just jumping down to standing items, I just want to jump down to foundation repair, because I know there's been several emails and quotes that you've gotten from Bell Masonry.
Yes. When we walked around, I conceptualized how I thought he would bid it. He didn't quite marry up with our thinking, but I think he gave us enough information to where with a few questions we can pull it together and with Nate's help meet our, what is it, a $20,000 budget? Budget.
Actually,
The
it's
cost
on
of the
that
project
sheet.
is $23,400.
That's the quote.
It's the
But
quote.
the budget that we have to spend is, I
You
think,
got your foundation repair is 5, then the foundation fund is 8, and then you get the library brick repair at 20.
yeah, we're somewhere between 8 and 20, I think, or 8 and 28. But
These three.
Yeah.
we can shape this to whatever we think the appropriate amount of spending is. This came in higher than I thought.
And the
Plus the fence.
Yeah. Does the library have to be closed?
No, this is one of these chain link fences with the sandbags on the feet,
Yeah.
so that people can't walk into a hole.
Okay, that's what, I thought the fence was, I thought you were talking about the gate outside of the library that we had talked about replacing.
That's why I was trying to figure out
Yeah.
what the fence
The
was.
perfect
what I was
example is what's in front of Tractor Supply down there,
Okay, yep,
all
okay.
around their equipment.
I was trying to figure out when it said
That's
temporary.
what they told me about when they called. So that's not the type of fence that they were describing to me when they called.
They
What
gave us
did
a
they say?
quote.
No, they asked about a snow fence.
Oh, really?
Snow fence?
The orange plastic netting fence that goes around, so that nobody walks too close
One
to
of the-
Maybe that's what
There's
it
going to be
is.
scaffolding.
I read
This, it
I
says,
read sandbags
like-
and
it says sandbags.
There we go,
and
that's it.
6
Thank
by
you.
12 temporary fence panels.
yeah, 6 by 12 is much bigger than the orange plastic.
Yeah, I would,
6 feet tall,
yeah.
12 feet long.
A lot different than they are talking to me. and
Jeez.
Duff. Do you guys mind if I take this back to Duffy and confirm with him but when they originally called to talk to me and, well, who they thought I was obviously not that person. I had to pass it off to the building department, but
Well,
if you don't mind, I'm going to take this back to Duffy and be like, is this what they said that they were going to do? Because when they originally called about a building permit for a fence, for a temporary fence, they were talking about snow fencing, which is the big plastic orange with
Well,
sandbags and
There's
stuff
also
like that.
another contract from them. So,
So my question is the total came into 23,000. So does that mean we need to get additional quotes because we're over the 10,000?
I think
Or
so, yeah.
are we able to break these out into smaller projects? Like, is there brick pointing that's happening that could be a separate project? Foundation that can be a separate project?
in its most fundamental sense, you could do just the left side. Then you can come back next year and do the right side, which has much less damage on it. When you break things down into smaller pieces, you still have what's called mobilization and demobilization. So even if they only work 1 hour, it's not going to cost 1 hour's worth. It's going to cost all the mob and demob. So I had kind of frankly forgotten about the building inspector. My fault. But we get together with Duffy and Nate and yourself if you care to. What we need to do is not tell this vendor 3 stories. We need to communicate to him with one package we ask him for. And if you guys could give me a sense of where the money wants to be spent. We have 8. We want to spend 16. Stop there. The nature of this work is they'll do partial billing, and they'll stop when you say stop.
Well, my interest would be in knocking out the 2020 and the 2019 foundation fund, which is 13,000 together, right? Because that's been on the books for
Yes.
few years.
4 and 5 years,
Yeah.
and we're starting to get questions about it. So I wouldn't mind getting that
let me
knocked
see
out.
this.
I do.
Now, the library brick
Gotta do
repair is the pointing. And if that could be something that could be itemized separately, then we could use the library brick repair, which we had 20,000 for.
Exactly. So if we can take this and break these down,
It's like 13,000 for
We
foundation.
assign work to accounts.
So 13, well, or if it needs to be, yes, I guess if we could say like pointing is 10,000, then we could take 10,000 out of the library brick repair. And if we can say foundation is 12,000, we can take the 8,000 and 5,000 out of the foundation fund.
And don't forget the fence.
And then the fence. Well, I think the fence would be, I think we can build the fence into CPC or CIPC. That's just part of doing the work. Like, we have to have a fence so people don't fall in the hole, right? So I don't,
So what I'm hearing you say is 5 plus 8 plus perhaps 10.
well, as much as, I mean, I'm happy to knock out the brick repair as much as we can.
Okay.
I'm happy, my goal is to get these funds off our books.
and also
Well,
to get the
my
projects
goal is
that
to
we
get the bricks fixed.
and to get the projects that we had intended and bookmarked them
Yeah.
for. So taking from this, that's what I was curious, is if we were able to take from this and like put it into specific ones.
We can.
So,
Not unilaterally, but
Yes.
with the vendor
Exactly.
and with Nate. We're up over a state threshold, but we're okay. Under 10,000, you use best business practices. Over 10,000, when you have a situation like this, the party that you've been working with all along is the preferred vendor, and you can do it. It's the same way he's doing
The
other
ego,
stuff.
yep.
So
So-
you don't have to put it out to bid over 10 because you used them in the past? Is that?
Well, not that you used them in the past, but if they help you for a year to develop the costs, you don't all of a sudden throw them away and start with a new vendor, because they don't know the job.
Nobody would else
We had a
would
hard
call
time
him
getting.
back.
Oh,
Yeah, like we did
that's
try
true.
other
Yeah,
people.
Okay.
we've worked on this for a while.
Trying to find somebody.
But
that
the
would
thing
come
I
in.
just want to make sure we're clear on is that the CPC funds, the 8,000 and the 5,000 can only be used for foundation repair.
Right,
We can't use it for anything else.
right.
So we just need to make sure that nothing else is sliding in underneath that,
No,
right? Like it-
There's
But
an
the fence
internal,
can count under that.
I think the fence can count because I think that's just part of setting up the
Right.
Yeah.
construction site, right?
Yeah, it's a safety feature
Yeah.
to make sure that when
On
they're
the-
repointing, no one gets hit by a brick.
on the right side of the building, looking at the steps, there's an interior and an exterior work job. So that takes most of the money, or it takes a larger percentage of the money than the other side. Worst comes to worst, we can lop the other side off and say, we'll do that some other time. There's also windows that I have a question about whether they're really doing the windows or not. There's a sill, 2 sills need replacement. He said he would do it, but I didn't see it in the write-up.
Okay.
So there's a little ironing out to do,
Okay.
but we have a vendor. We have a
Great. This
pretty
is-
good estimate.
This is
It's
great.
Not
This is
too
excellent,
far
and
from.
thank you so
Yes,
much.
yes,
This
Don't
is
thank
huge.
me.
So,
But, so my next step, with your permission, would be to sit with Nate and perhaps the building inspector, you, if you care to, because
I
your
would love to.
Please.
background.
I very much encourage and thank you. Yes.
Okay. Then that's a yes.
Yes.
That's
Okay.
a yes for me.
That's
Yeah.
my next stop.
Yep, that's great. And then this quote, does this quote include pointing to or not? I couldn't quite
Yes.
tell.
What he says is up to 6 feet off the ground. He doesn't want to do it with scaffolding because it becomes a whole cost jump.
Yeah.
You know, we got scaffolding and safety equipment and everything. But as far as he can reach, he will do. And that's the 6-foot discussion.
And so I would say with that, we say do as much pointing you can up to $20,000.
Yeah. And he comes around the corner of the building because it, like to where the boiler is, there's some drip damage there. And this is a difficult pointing job. The bricks are set at what's called thin set. There's a very small gap between bricks. So this is, takes some technique, takes some skills.
Okay, great.
so I'm sorry, we're going to use the 2 grants, which is $13,000, but are we going into this brick
Up to-
repair?
So the $13,000 would be for foundation repair.
Yeah.
And then they're also going to be doing some repointing or pointing.
So we can't use the pointing money for the repair.
We can't use the pointing money for the foundation, but for any
Okay.
the 6 feet of pointing that Tom was just talking about, we can
Okay.
use the library brick repair funds for.
Okay,
I would take a slight twist on that. If we expended the 5 plus the 8, and we still had $1,000 worth of foundation work to do, you could take it from the library brick repair.
Can I say that
If we
again?
still had additional foundation repairs above the 13,000.
You can't take it from the pointing.
Can't, it has to
From
be
the
only
brick repair.
pointing?
Only for pointing.
That's not the way I remember writing it up, but that's okay.
I mean, we can confirm that, but I
No.
think that's,
It's all right.
If it comes to the point to where it's like $1,000, I believe that we would be able to find the funds again. I would be going and looking at our donation count,
Yeah.
that type of a dollar amount,
Or
that balance.
Freeman,
If-
Freetown, whatever it was.
If there's any remaining after Royalstein.
Yeah, all right. But we'll find the
and we can
differential.
go back
Because
and
the additional will be
reread
like 100.
the pointing, but
Won't be
every
100.
time I've gone to CPC, they've been like, it's
Yeah.
only for what you've written down.
Okay,
Like,
so
it's
we
not
have
for
to
anything
review the
else.
grants.
So,
We'll write our grants better next time.
it has to be very specific, so.
and so this fencing, it sounded like you were saying they could start and stop, but do we have to like rent the fencing again every time?
No, I didn't mean it that way. I meant they will give us billing that is,
Oh, I see.
I think it's weekly, and as the cost builds.
Oh, yes, so it keeps it at that like 7,800.
Yeah,
balance.
as the cost builds, we can say, tweet, stop, we're out of money, and they'll go take the fence down and leave. And, leave it in a good condition, but nevertheless,
So we'll
stop.
go back to them and say, this is how much money
Yep.
we have.
Yeah, it won't be a runaway situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No
And then if it goes
surprises.
over 13,000, we have to, I guess, sit and talk about that because we have to burn through quite a bit of money with the boiler and stuff like that. So I think we, need.
Might
just
we
think through.
adjust our budget for fiscal year 25 or whatever it is? I don't know what we've put into the town, but
Chris is giving a hard no.
No, I usually submit my budget to the town in November,
yeah,
so.
but it's not been voted on yet.
This is true, it has not been voted on, but I do not foresee any increases coming for FY '25.
If you want to
Yeah.
sit into the budgetary meetings, and I believe that the town of Hubbardston has an open chair on the school committee as well, if you want to run for that.
Well, I was gonna go school committee, finance committee.
Yeah.
No, we need your full focus on this stuff.
Yes. So, yeah, sounds like the budgets are a little tight here.
They always express that. The way of
It's getting
life.
a little bit tighter.
It's like your pants after Thanksgiving dinner over here, so.
They lowered the taxes a couple of years ago.
All right, can I make it is 8:53. Can I make a motion to adjourn?
I'll second your motion.
All in favor?
Sorry, I know I told
All right,
you that it was
thank
supposed to
you.
be done by 8:30.